Hey there, welcome to another exciting week of Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Robert Winters.
I'm Judy Nathans.
And today is January 9th, 2018,
Yes.
if you're viewing this from the future. So, and I guess a few things to mention. Certainly, we had an inaugural last week.
And we talked about that. Yeah. And then we had a snowstorm.
And we had a snowstorm. We had bitchin' cold weather.
Well, yeah, that was all
today.
good. No, or yesterday even. It was warmer as of Monday morning. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
amazing. It's going to be 50 on Friday.
Again.
Yeah. Except it'll still turn to ice at night. I'm a little concerned. It's already slick on some of the sidewalks.
Actually, what I'm noticing happening is because there's such a bulk of snow, a lot of it is melting onto sidewalks, which are really, the ground is very cold, and the air, as that gets cold, it's freezing on sidewalks.
And it is going to be below freezing, I think, most of the night. So even though
there's going to be a lot of slippery sidewalks.
Yeah, so sand your walks if you can. All right, salt or sand.
All right. So we did have a Cambridge City Council meeting last night.
Very
shocking.
Quiet and polite.
Quiet and polite. It was. It's sort of interesting. I've been going up to the Sullivan Chamber for many years.
Yes.
And been there for sort of opening meetings when
there's new councillors.
New councillors are there, and it's sort of like their
And
first
so is this
crack
typical? Where they're kind of just a little bit laid back a little?
Yeah, it's very typical.
Okay.
Actually, it's sometimes think about this sometimes. I think on the one hand, newly elected councillors, any councillor at any meeting really.
Yeah.
It's sort of a combination of being a sincere presence of who you are.
Right.
But there's a little bit of that. You have to sort of invent yourself.
Yeah.
That goes on in there. So sometimes I will admit I actually pay attention to the first time somebody speaks as a city councilor.
Yes. I did too. I was waiting. I mean, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, not that you should or could ever characterize a person by the very first thing they say as an elected official, but to me, I just sort of find it a curiosity. So let's just start by saying I'll say what the three impressions I got of the three new councillors.
Okay.
And by impressions, I just mean what they seem to focus on in the orientation, right?
Yeah.
So the first one was Quentin Zondervan, who, without any surprise to anybody on earth, his very first sentence as a city councillor, the phrase "climate change" was in there.
Oh yeah,
so,
right. That's it. Right. Yeah.
Right now, nobody should be surprised at that because he ran on that.
What was that in reference to? The snow. We're talking about snow removal and stuff.
Snow removal. So
he.
Whether correctly or incorrectly relates it to climate change.
Because that's his thing.
Right? Yeah, because that's his thing. Right. So, so he comes into the job with a certain orientation, and I think and very no shock at all, immediately presents himself as the climate change guy, right? Which he is. He is the climate change guy, right? So I thought that was noteworthy. Right? Sumbul Siddiqui. Actually, I think she was the third of them to speak.
Right, she was not until later.
So it was an agenda item that had to do with broken down elevators in freshwater apartments. And at least my first impressions were, this is a constituent services type of orientation, right?
But didn't she live there for a while with her family?
Well, she certainly lived
somewhere
maybe
in public housing.
So she expanded upon that and started talking about just basic bread and butter, maintenance.
Like the laundry.
The laundry, whatever, and I thought, well, that's an interesting orientation. That's like the old time, constituent services type council. It's a little bit like Tim Toomey.
Well, but she wanted to add to the policy order that Simmons had put out about the elevators, and they did amend it.
Right, that's right.
So I think that's good.
But I thought, that's actually a pretty good, again, I'm not trying to suggest that this is who the person is or will
but
be
it's
forever,
something that,
But, I think, from a political point of view, being a good, responsive, constituent services oriented, bread and butter councilor is actually a really good way to be.
She was the second biggest vote getter, so
yes,
she obviously knocked on lots of doors and heard from a lot of people.
That's right. Yeah. Now, Alana Mallon, in her first, I think it was her first, I'm not 100% sure, but one of the agenda items that we wanted to certainly talk about was the imminent closure of the nearby Star/Shaw's Market in University Park, which is a whole story in itself. So very much to my surprise, since I spoke about it at the meeting, and she actually refers to, I mentioned this study that the city did back around 1994-95, had to do with access to supermarkets.
Right, and some deal.
So over the weekend, she found it,
Oh, right.
she read it, she's like,
Yeah.
so my first impressions of Councilor Mellon is she does her
Does her
homework.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
she researches the question, she comes prepared for a meeting.
Especially
like this.
around, I think, food access and food, because that is her background too.
And that
her,
makes a lot of
yeah,
sense too.
right,
So it's
yeah.
a good match. So that was something that
Exactly.
would definitely have kind of struck a nerve with her.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So anyway, those are my first impressions.
Yeah,
of
they
you
all,
were-
I think, gave very good, comments, and were
Yeah.
yeah.
My impression of the new 2018-19 council at large, I said I'm feeling very optimistic and hopeful.
Yeah,
I
don't think it's going to be real divisive.
it
But
did-
who knows? You
All
don't
it takes
know.
is one issue, right?
It takes one issue.
It takes
That's
one
right.
issue, really. But
So-
it started off, and
Right.
Mark McGovern, in
Yes.
his new role as mayor,
He
I
did
think
make
he's very much going out of his way to be the fair arbiter
This,
and
the what's the
conciliatory
word?
person.
Thank you. I couldn't
Yeah.
think of that.
yeah. So I'm
United.
I'm
we
feeling upbeat
stand.
about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been some councils where I either felt sort of intimidated, like, okay, the mayor's going to shoot me down, or he's going to try and insult me, or something, which has happened. And I said, I'm not even going to speak. So here I am at the first meeting, and what did I do? Right up to the
Yeah.
microphone.
Well, it was a good point.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Well, I also have a little bit of background about that.
Exactly. Well, like if people know you go back years,
Yeah.
old man. No.
really.
No, you are the historian. You
Yeah.
know about Cambridge.
Yeah. So actually, maybe we should speak a little bit about that.
Because it was basically a short meeting, but the two big issues. Well, snow removal took about 40 minutes because I was listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the food market situation.
Yeah, so on the I think you could actually, at least I
Yeah.
could tell.
Yeah.
Owen O'Riordan,
Oh,
Commissioner of Public Works, he's up there, giving the
Yeah.
lay of the land of this is
Right.
what we were doing.
Yeah.
He really looked like he'd been out there
Oh,
with
really?
it,
Well,
managing
you
the
were there in
crews.
person. The
Oh,
view from
yeah.
the TV, they don't give close-ups, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Did he look weather-beaten?
He looked a bit weather-beaten.
He just
like,
come off the Scottish Highlands or something.
it's an interesting, I don't know if the word tradition is appropriate, but there's a sort of an interesting reality that it's certainly out in Public Works and even in the city manager's office, when there's a big snow event, or actually any major
the fire,
event like a big fire,
right.
it's a
all hands on
all
deck.
hands on deck
Yeah.
kind of mindset, and people have to be willing to actually put in
Right.
ridiculously long hours.
Right.
Apparently some of the
They're paid well. They should do it.
They're paid well, yeah.
And
But-
it's their public servants.
people who actually laborers doing
Right.
doing the plowing, whatever,
Right.
are
Well, that's their
doing
right.
Full day, what
Yeah.
did somebody do, like 31-hour shift or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
But well,
you
then they
could-
may
you
not
could
work the
imagine.
next week. So it's just
Exactly,
it's the nature of the
Yeah.
job. But
So
yeah, thank
so
goodness.
Owen was sort of like a perfect representative, and then he looked
Yeah.
like he'd sort of been out there with the crews
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
working it.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
And I thought he dealt with the not pushback, but the questions about why wasn't I guess the corners are a big issue.
A big
Snow
issue.
removal from the corners because you can't cross, and then whose responsibility is that? Where do you put the snow? And
It's an
Yeah.
interesting balance between
Yeah.
private responsibility and public responsibility, where
yes,
you're asked to. It's not this way in all cities, right?
No.
But we're asked to, as
Clear-
homeowners, to
clear
clear our
hydrants and things.
sidewalks, and we're
Yeah.
requested. I don't think
Yeah.
we're obliged necessarily
Yeah.
to clear the hydrants, but
Yeah,
it's certainly in our own best
Sure.
interest should there be an
exactly.
emergency, right,
Right.
to have them clear. And many of us will clear not only our sidewalk in front of our house, but we'll push it to down to the corners so that pedestrians can get through.
Yeah.
But not everybody does it.
Well, if you have a snow blower, it helps. If you're just shoveling, it's harder. I mean, it takes a lot more work to really clear out a corner. Depends on how big your property
Yes.
is.
Something
Yeah.
I had intended to do some years ago and planned it with my neighbors.
I thought you were gonna get a community
We were
snow
gonna have a
blower.
community snow
You never
blower.
did?
I didn't have a place to keep it, so
Oh.
and then somebody moved, so we didn't have a
Oh.
place to
No,
locate it, so
nobody
it
had a
never
garage or
happened.
anything? Oh.
Right. But I think actually that's something people on your block,
Mm-hmm.
you, Mr. and Mrs. Cantabrigian, you should
Well-
consider actually teaming up with some of the neighbors, if you
Yeah.
haven't already, and investing in a snowblower.
Or what about just sharing maintenance and sharing one?
That's what I mean.
Because some people have them already.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, pitch in and sort of.
And sometimes people are good neighbors and they will actually do a neighbors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
George Hines used to definitely do
Yeah.
Fayette Street. Passed away a few years
Yeah.
ago, but his family was the type of people who would
Mhm.
do that. So anyway, I always find it interesting that when you have this kind of fuzzy boundary between private and public
Sure.
responsibilities.
Right.
I thought Councillor Kelly was really quite insightful in some of his remarks.
Yeah, what were they again? I mean,
not to.
He was talking about the corner.
Certainly corners, but
the cyclist stuff.
But also the notion that a city basically comes by and pushes through, this sort of glacial ice, I think he called it.
Yes.
That sort of clogs up the pedestrian access to a sidewalk at a corner. It's not just a matter of like, well, it's your obligation as a homeowner to clear it. You might not actually be physically able to do it at some point.
Exactly, right.
And you say, well, you should hire somebody. Well, you might not be able to find somebody because everybody else is asking for the same people.
Yeah.
And so that's a dilemma, because the city may not have the resource to do it all, but then if you're asking the private property owners to do it, they may not be able to do it.
Was he the one that said, or was it somebody said, we have to lower our expectations, maybe?
Craig certainly did.
Yeah. In other words, I don't get in my car usually for a few days. Yeah. Even though I have a driveway, because I don't want to drive around in this mess.
Same here.
But
oftentimes
you have a picture of it.
That's right. I put my picture of my own bus on the website for this one.
Yeah.
Buried in snow.
Yeah,
right?
we'll show you later.
Yeah, but but I think Councillor Kelly was emphasizing was that unlike the usual rhetoric you hear from elected officials is, well, Mr. Commissioner of Public Works or Mr. City Manager, we have to do a better job. It's always we have to do a better job. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess you'll always have to do a better job, because the more you raise the expectations, the more you'll have to always do better than that. And it was Councillor Kelly who I thought he was pretty refreshing. He was saying, that maybe some things you simply have to accept, and saying, well, it snowed. It snowed, and we do the best we can, and we prioritize, and some things you just have to accept. I think Jan Devereaux was actually, I was supposed to say Vice Mayor Devereaux, right? Yeah. She made a little funny there. She said she was shoveling out her inbox or something like that of all the C-Click Fix requests for snowy or icy sidewalks or whatever, because I get those too, and I end up with 300 of these.
No, I don't understand. Why do you get them?
You sign up for it for alerts.
Oh, and then you'll get other people's notices?
Yeah, well, that's right. So you get alerts, and I'm almost to the point I want to just turn it off, because
can't you just do a digest or like a once a day thing?
Not for those. But
I wouldn't want that.
You can select particular areas of the city, but even if you're just getting the C-Click Fix alerts.
Well, what did she? I could see as a city councilor you'd want to get them.
Well, she was funny. She said she was shoveling out all the C-Click Fix alerts, and I said, that's exactly what I've been doing too.
That's funny.
Right?
I'm glad I remember that.
And it was interesting to read the scope of what people were complaining about. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of it is the old my nasty neighbor dumped the snow from here of his driveway in front of my sidewalk.
Well, the bike lane stuff came up.
The bike lane certainly came up.
And you know what? There was, I don't know if I said that. I said the bike lanes are part of major thoroughfares, so of course they should get cleared anyway.
They should get cleared. I think the issue was it's, and I think it was Councillor Toomey kind of
he really got into
this. It kind of sends a certain message when you're sitting there struggling and you can't even get off the sidewalk, but the city's dedicating multiple resources and new machineries to make sure. Got to make sure the bike lanes.
Yeah, but I do think where they did with the bike lanes are on major, thoroughfares. So they were going to do them anyway. And you know what Kelly said? I thought he said I would give up the corners for the bike lanes.
Actually, no. What he said is.
But overall, cyclists deserve safe passage as well as cars.
That's what really was the point.
Yeah, no, but I think that was the point.
Because Craig also pointed out he's not necessarily a fan of the way the city is configuring its bicycle infrastructure.
But as long
he and I actually see.
No, I agree with that too. I agree with that too. And he's a cyclist, so
personally, I think that if you pull those damn bollards out and just plowed all the way to the curb, so you could push vehicles back there, you would on balance, you would make things safer for everybody. But it's almost like this political demarcation that says, well, this has been established as this turf for this constituency and that. Yeah. And then it becomes kind of an argument about who gets priority.
I like the green paint. I've seen a lot more green paint, new green paint.
Oh yeah, No, I think
That's
you know,
good too.
this is a conversation that has to continue. I'm not necessarily
Mobility and
optimistic where it's going,
right.
but you know, it's going to have to happen.
Okay.
All right, so anyway, that was a big chunk of what happened
Yes.
up at the City Hall last night,
Right.
and it's inevitable after any big snow event. It always happens, right?
Yes.
You know, councillors do have to sort of be held accountable to the constituents. So,
Right.
Mr. Manager, what are you doing for my constituents?
23 miles of sidewalk were plowed. Wait,
Yeah.
no. Wait, sidewalk. How could sidewalk be? What did he mean by that? Louis D. Boutswell. Why would I write sidewalk?
Oh, I'm not sure. But the
I think it's roads.
Certainly the first priority is always major arterials.
Right.
You know, and then it's transit, right? I actually put in a
Well, around schools.
Actually, that's been a problem, like because I live across the street from the old Longfellow School, so the city hires contractors who will go there. I hate to be a complainer, okay, but
go ahead.
the contractors clear everything, sidewalk, right to the curb, everything's spotless over there.
In front of the schools?
Yeah, and where do they put the snow?
On the across the street?
Across the street. So,
oh, come on.
Yeah, so we work real hard clearing our sidewalk. We don't just clear the minimum, we clear the maximum, right?
42 inches.
And they come by and then they just create these mountains that you have to,
and then falls into your sidewalk?
and it falls into the sidewalks, whatever. Now, it wasn't too bad.
Unfortunately, I think they need to have a truck. Well, that's what they're
Well,
doing now,
eventually
behind
do
where
it.
they put the
Yeah.
snow in.
But they also, you know, because these contractors, they don't really know where the infrastructure is, so they piled a gigantic mountain right over the storm drains.
Wow.
They also
that's not good.
they also apparently didn't know where the bus stops were because they created a big mountain
Oh my
on
goodness.
the bus stop.
Did you put a
So I put in a secret fix request. So they came back. I was at night before last. You could hear the beep beep beep.
Oh, well, they're
during the
all
night.
over the city now. They were
Yeah.
they were on
Oh,
my
yeah,
street
yeah.
last night and the night before, and they're
Yeah.
going to be there tonight. You cannot park now on the even side of
Right, now
the odd side of Putnam
And
Ave.
that's actually a proposal. I wanted to catch Owen afterwards, but you know I think he was actually in the green room
Yeah.
enjoying some food and
Right.
coffee and whatever. So he didn't come out. So I gave
Yeah.
up. But I was basically going to say, you know, they have a relatively modest sized list of streets that have partial closures.
Mm-hmm.
You know, parking bans continuing. And I was going to try to suggest to him because, you know, I take the 68 bus often down to work on Broadway, and it's extremely narrow because of the snow.
Well, isn't that a snow emergency street? So
It's a snow emergency
so cars had to
street.
be removed, right?
They were, yet
But they still didn't clear to the.
there were a lot of places like where I am where they use one side of the street as
That's
sort
what
of
happened
snow
on.
belt.
That's what happened
Yeah,
on
and
Putnam
there are
Ave,
sections
too.
of Broadway.
And the cars are parked now.
Yeah, and they're
way out,
they're
and-
4 feet out.
And now what that they're trying to clear
more,
that. It's
actually.
really dangerous. You couldn't.
Yeah.
pay-
So
yeah.
you know, not that I like having parking bans around my neighborhood, but I would
Like to see
actually
it cleared,
maybe
yeah.
maybe the warmer temperatures will cure
Oh,
it.
there's
but,
already this shrinkage.
but I
there,
actually
yeah.
think they ought to make
Yeah.
it part of a routine that you know when they do this the clearance that
Right to
streets
the
like
curb.
Broadway
Yeah.
say okay on the one day after the storm the even side will
Yeah.
have a continued parking ban and they
Right.
were going to push it back to the curb.
Right.
And then the following day, we're going to do the other side of the street, so move your
Right.
cars across and do that. And it would be manageable that way. Right now, there are buses, fire engines can
Yeah.
barely get through.
Yeah. No,
side
it's
by
true,
side.
and that's
And,
not safe.
No,
Yeah.
that's not great. So, anyway.
So you learn each time, but it is true they have to hire out, and you can't you don't have as much control when it's
That's
all
right.
subcontractors.
Yeah, there's not an infinite supply of contractors out there who are doing this. A lot of people do landscaper work in the summertime or out there doing snow.
What
clearing.
about our own? How many are in our own?
I don't know how many
employees, do you know?
vehicles or how many employees,
yeah.
but pretty much anybody whose labor is out there doing it.
Right.
You know, so
I just didn't know,
and more than
yeah.
the laborers, actually, some you know there've been times right up to the administrators
Right.
that have done
Right.
it.
Right.
So anyway, that was one part of it. Another part, maybe we'll speak more about this too, but so there's this imminent closure of the Star Market,
Right.
or is it now Shaw's?
Now
it's the
I
same
don't know
company.
what it's called. Star. Yeah.
Shaw's took over Stars.
But I
some
think
years
they're
ago.
all branded as Stars.
Yeah. So in the University Park here, part of is I think supposed to close at
February something,
February
13th or 3rd. Yeah.
3rd.
Pretty soon.
And I actually heard one person said there was somebody with a sandwich board sign out on Mass Ave saying 50% discount. So if you want some bargains, go there.
Was that true or a joke?
I think it was true. They said I know
Really?
there were definitely some
Oh,
discounts. They got to do. They're trying to clear out the store.
All right.
So
should go
you know,
there.
go there. But there's so it was Councillor Simmons. I still want to say Mayor Simmons, right? But
yeah.
Councillor Simmons put in an order basically asking the city and administration to contact representatives of other supermarket interests to see if they might be interested in trying to hammer out some kind of an arrangement with
Who makes the decision? Forest City. Okay.
Forest City is they had like a 99-year land lease on the whole University Park area.
Okay.
Right, so they're the ones that make the decisions. Now, MIT owns the land, so they have influence.
I was wondering about that.
them.
MIT owns that property?
They own the land
So what's the
under it.
but they have a 99-year lease, Forest City?
I'm not sure if it's a 99, but
Because if
it
you
was
have
a
a
very
lease,
long.
you can't really go against that, can you, as the owner, or can you?
No, not really. But it's just a matter of relationships. So
Right.
So Forest City, which was actually based in Cleveland, right? They're the ones who operate this. The funny thing is that people are talking about this in sort of historical context when they, when they set the zoning for that. When they actually took the vote for that zoning, I was sitting next to the guy from Forest City.
Wow.
The representative from Forest City when that vote was taken.
Yeah.
So that was like in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Right? So that's 30 years ago, I think.
Wow.
Right? There was another zoning thing that happened as well, but so maybe
that,
maybe I'm
that
thinking
was way
of
after the
later.
whole Micro Center Stop and Shop fiasco,
That happened
right?
many years later. That was 1994.
That's when that was?
Yeah. So the context of this, why is there a second floor supermarket at University Park anyway?
Yeah.
That's not a likely place you would expect.
Right. You can't see it from the street.
You
have
can't
to
see it
know
from
where
the
it
street.
is.
So how did it come to be? So I'll give you the short version of this, right? The short version is I believe it was in May 14th, I believe, of 1994 is when, after a lot of back and forth about it, I think it was 94, could have been 95, the Stop and Shop on Memorial Drive closed. And it was very controversial. I
went to those meetings.
I did too, and there were a lot of us who were pushing to, we supported their proposal to create a super Stop and Shop.
But a lot of Cambridge people, we don't like this, and they were going to put a clock tower in. They're going to make it look like Harvard, but no.
Actually,
so what do we end up with? The Micro Center.
Square footage,
crazy.
Total floor area of the new super Stop and Shop would have been less than the combination of
what
the
you have
old
all
Stop
now.
and Shop, what was
Micro
then the
Center.
old Caldor, which was in a Medimart or whatever, and the Strawberries record store that was all up there.
There
were actually three
There's a
buildings
Rite
on
Aid,
the site, right? I think there's still the
Salvation or Goodwill was there. There was
the
buildings are all still there, but there was such. It really gave me a taste of how hard it is to build things in Cambridge.
And it was very political.
Yes, it was.
Let me not name names here, but there was one person had a loyal constituent who always put up a sign for this particular councillor, who was right there on the Florence Street. There was another person who, a couple that I knew, who overlooked through the parking lot, who thought there was going to be some big development right outside their window. So they were right at the core of the opposition to.
Too bad. They were going to have a bakery. They were going to have,
and then there were the conspiracy theorists who said that what the corporation is really trying to do is to get control of the city streets. And then a few years down the road, they're going to close it down and they're going to consolidate it and they're going to have control.
So meanwhile, I am very
Riverside
thankful
Road.
for Trader Joe's. Micro Center, but it draws people from all over. So now you have a Micro Center,
and
which
at the time, after we lost the Super Stop and Shop, some of us with the former Central Square Neighborhood Coalition helped facilitate the arrival of the Trader Joe's there.
Thank you.
They were planning
because
to go there.
People say we don't have inexpensive places. I get probably 80% of my stuff there.
That was a godsend when they arrived on the scene, because we had nothing at that point. We had nothing. And
nothing down there,
and
right?
That was
absolutely right.
That was the context, which now relates to the Star Market at University Park, where. In an area where maybe things have gentrified somewhat, but
they pretty well
a lot.
Down there.
I'm trying to be kind,
you don't live
right?
now. They have.
Right.
It's
but there were a lot of people.
Yes.
And there still are, like over at Memorial Drive.
Oh no, it's a big population.
Who really needed access, and they didn't have it.
Hey, look, we don't have liquor. We don't have beer and wine anymore. Trader Joe's. There's no place because you could buy it there at Stop and Shop.
They used to have the Parkway Liquors. We were right in there. Yeah.
What was it? Whole Foods that's now there on River Street? Because I'm trying to remember. Because that came in. What was there? Anything?
I don't remember now.
I don't think
I
it was.
should know.
But anyway, so that end does have a lot of shopping options.
Yeah. But so there was after the demise of the old Stop and Shop, there was some people use the term food desert, but there were very few options for people who wanted to actually buy, to stock up on groceries.
It's true. Down there's nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the city commissioned a study, which was when Councillor Mallon was researching.
Okay, that was the study. Okay.
Yeah, and because it was real controversy, and quite honestly, Councillor Jonathan Myers, probably the reason why he didn't run for re-election in '95 was because he made so many enemies by having 22 completely fruitless meetings.
Because he fought the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it was ridiculous.
Oh.
I think, maybe I hope I'm not misremembering this, but the thing is, he wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
So anyway, so in the end, what happened then was the University Park was being built out.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to put in that hotel as well as a parking garage. There was a closure of the former Blanche Street there.
And they moved Peter Valentine's house.
That was part of it, yeah. And there was I felt at the time, a lot of us did, that it was meant to sweeten the deal. To sort of get the approval, the curb cuts and whatever. They said, well, we'll provide a supermarket. And
it's a good thing. I didn't realize it's been there that long.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the time, a lot of us said, well, is that really going to work? You know? And, honestly, it never fully worked.
Right.
The prices weren't the best, but it was access.
Market.
I mean, it was really an issue of access.
Right.
Right. And 20 years later, I think the supermarket chain is really their 20-year lease probably is what's running out, though I don't know for sure.
That makes sense.
So.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll pick up on this in a couple of seconds.
But we're not a food desert. Not now.
Right. See you then.